Hi everyone, I'm Marcy, and if you're craving an autumn treat, today I'm going to be making homemade apple fritters. They're crispy on the outside, spongy on the inside, and packed with apple cinnamon goodness. Now, you may think that it's a complicated recipe, but I'm going to show you just how easy they are to make. I've been wanting to make apple fritters since we got back from our trip to New England, where we visited an apple orchard in Vermont, and we got to walk through the trees and see the apples. It was so beautiful. We shot some video, but unfortunately it got deleted by accident. So just trust me when I say it was gorgeous and very inspiring, especially for this recipe. So here's what you're going to need. 2 apples. I'm going with Fuji, but Honey Crisp are also good, or Granny Smith, although those tend to be a little more tart. 2 tablespoons unsalted butter, and 1 tablespoon sugar. And then for the batter, you're going to need 1.5 cups all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons baking powder, 1.5 teaspoons cinnamon, 1/8 teaspoon nutmeg, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1/4 cup of sugar, and 1/3 cup of milk, 2 eggs, and about 2, maybe even 3 cups of vegetable oil. I'm going with canola because it has a high smoke point and it's also neutral in taste. And then for the glaze, you'll need 2 cups powdered sugar. I've already sifted this one. 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, and about 4 tablespoons of milk. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm first going to peel and dice up the apples. There's no right or wrong way to do this, so just cut them to the size you like in your fritters. Now, once they're all chopped, I'm going to par cook the apples on the stovetop. And the reason I do this is because when it comes time to frying the apple fritters, what happens is the batter fries real quickly, but then when you bite into it, the apples are still raw, and I want them to be nice and cooked and soft. So this step just ensures that, but if that doesn't bother you, you can skip this step. I'm melting 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter in a medium-sized skillet, then putting the chopped apples in there and letting them cook for just a few minutes, flipping them over as they cook. I toss in the tablespoon of sugar and continue to let them cook, probably a total of about 8 minutes. You don't need them to cook completely, this just gives them a head start. Then take them off the stove and let them cool while we make our dough. In a large bowl, we're going to mix all our dry ingredients. That's the flour, the baking powder, the sugar, the cinnamon, the nutmeg, and the salt. Give it a quick stir to combine. Then we can add in the wet ingredients. That's the milk and the eggs, which I'm first going to slightly beat in a smaller bowl before adding them in. Mix everything together until you have a consistent, sticky dough. Next, take the par-cooked apples and incorporate them into the dough. Try to avoid any liquid that may have rendered on the stovetop and only put in the apples. Now in a deep pan, you'll want to heat your oil. I've got the burner set to medium-high, and I want the temperature to reach from 350 to 375 degrees. If you don't have a thermometer, take a little piece of the dough and drop it in there. It should float to the top and it should be bubbly all around. If not, your oil is not ready. When it's hot enough, it's helpful if you use 2 utensils, one to scoop up the dough and the other to help scrape it off the spoon when dropping it in the oil. You can try to quickly flatten and spread out the dough, but keep in mind that apple fritters aren't perfectly shaped, so you don't need to worry too much about it. Let them fry for about 2 minutes on one side, then flip them over and let them fry for another 2 minutes on the other side. When they're dark golden brown on all sides and cooked through, place them onto a paper towel lined rack or plate so that the excess oil can drain, and continue frying as many fritters as you can get out of your dough, which for me is 8. Now that all the apple fritters are fried, we can whip up some glaze. I'm using 2 cups of powdered sugar that's been sifted to avoid clumps, and to it I'm adding vanilla extract and a little of this milk. I don't pour it all in at once because I might not need it all. After I whisk, I can decide. If it's too thick, I can add the rest of the milk, or if it's too runny, I can add more powdered sugar. This glaze looks about right. It's nice and smooth and should melt easily. So next is the fun part, icing our fritters. They don't need to cool completely. In fact, I like when they're still just a little warm, and you just take them and dip them in the glaze one at a time, moving it around so that it gets into all the nooks and crannies. You can put glaze only on one side if you'd like, but since I have plenty of glaze left over, I let them set for a bit, then I flip them over and glaze them on the other side. These apple fritters, admittedly, are a little wonky. I mean, take a look at the shape of this one. But this is a case where it's not about how they look, and it's all about how they taste. This one's kind of calling my name, so I'm gonna break off a piece here. It's got that little bit of crispness when you bite into it, and then on the inside it's pillowy and yummy, and you can see bits of apple there. You know, when you buy apple fritters at the bakery, they tend to skimp on the apples, but this recipe is loaded with apples, so it's just wonderful. Do yourself a favor and make these. You're gonna love them. Thanks so much for checking out this video. If you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss any one of my recipes. I also invite you to follow me at Marcy Inspired on Instagram and Facebook. Until next time, blessings from my kitchen to yours.